Alright guys, we are back with another comparison. Today we've got the S21 Ultra versus the OnePlus 12 Pro. Again, a very interesting comparison here. And like I said, you can get an S21 Ultra. You guys know this is my favorite phone of all time, so I'm really curious to see how this compares to the OnePlus 12. And you can find this for under 400 bucks these days. It's really cheap. You can see 350. And yeah, the OnePlus 12R you can find for actually 500 bucks brand new, and then if you trade in any phone you get $100 off, so it brings it to 400. It's been touted as the flagship killer. A lot of people have been saying this mid-range phone is just it makes sense though, because it is really impressive spec wise. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start off with the hardware on here, and again, this is always going to be a personal preference, but which design do you guys like? They both look really good. I've always really liked the S21's design here with the camera cutout. It always has this really cool like Terminator kind of sci-fi look, especially with that red in the camera right there. And I've always thought it just looked really cool and has a cool sci-fi look. And yeah, they're both premium looking phones, and hardware wise, there is a big difference with the hardware, of course. Here the S21 Ultra does have IP68 dust and water resistant, and the OnePlus 12R only has IP64. And then also they're both premium designs, so they're both glass and metal designs, and they both feel really good in the hand. They don't have that really sharp boxy feel, so both of them actually feel really solid in the hand. One thing I like about the OnePlus 12R in particular is it does have a mute vibration switch on here, which is really useful, something that I've grown to really like. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the hardware. They're both really nice looking phones in my opinion. Alright, so as far as the displays go here, I think this is a pretty good comparison for displays, because they both have the same display design and they both have a curved panel, and it looks like the S21 Ultra is slightly less curved, just a little bit. You can kind of barely tell, but to me it does look a slightly less curved. But they both essentially have kind of the same display design. So the difference is on the S21 Ultra, it's a dynamic AMOLED, 120 Hz HDR10+, 1500 nits peak brightness, and then it's 1440p 515 for the PPI. The OnePlus 12R has the LTPO4 AMOLED display. It is 120 Hz HDR10+. It gets up to 4500 nits peak brightness, and it's a 6.78 inch display. Now it does have a lower resolution at 1264 by 2780, and it's 450 for the PPI. So you do have a higher resolution on the S21 Ultra, so you can take advantage of full 1440p content, and you can enjoy that. But the displays look really similar. They both look really good, honestly. And for the OnePlus having that crazy max brightness outdoors, it is just a super bright phone outdoors. But the S21 Ultra is still very easily visible outdoors. But yes, the OnePlus is going to be brighter in direct sunlight. It really comes down to your personal preference, whether you're outdoors a lot. Honestly, I still think the S21 Ultra has the better display, just based off the fact that it's 1440p. And also, this phone you can use with a stylus as well too. So if you want to navigate the display with a stylus, you can do that on the S21 Ultra. So yeah, it really comes down to personal preference here, but both displays actually look pretty similar, and they both look really good though. So let's talk about specs a little bit more here. So we got Geekbench pulled up here. So on the S21, we do have the Snapdragon 888 chipset, 128 gigs of internal storage, and 12 gigs of RAM, on top of Android 14, One UI 6.1. And then on the OnePlus, we do have Android 14 on top of Oxygen OS with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor, 128 gigs of internal storage, and 8 gigs of RAM on the base. Here you can see the single core scores, and we can switch over to the multi-core. You can see the OnePlus does have a more powerful chipset than the Snapdragon 888. And also I noticed that it does not get as warm as the S21 Ultra when you're doing like intensive stuff, like a lot of gaming, a lot of editing and stuff like that. It doesn't get as warm, which is something that I really like. Now the S21 is still really fast when it comes to loading of applications and overall just gaming. And yes, the OnePlus is going to be definitely faster when it comes to benchmarks, when it comes to the CPU, and as soon as I say that, though, S21 beats it. But like I said, I wouldn't upgrade because of speed here, because there's really not a big speed difference here. And where are my icons at? Let's try YouTube. Yeah, so they pretty much feel on par, and both very smooth for the most part. Let's try to get into PUBG real quick. Alright, let's get into PUBG. See which one gets in here first. And it looks like the oh man, that was almost, it was pretty much a tie. I couldn't see it. I'll have to slow the video down. It was really close. All right, when it comes to actual, playing PUBG here, both phones are really fast for the most part, as you guys can see. But like I said, the Snapdragon AAA chipset, it can tend to like heat up a little bit more than I would like when you're doing like intense stuff. I've never had it actually crash on me or anything like that. But we essentially are running at the same settings, 90 frames. There's no difference in terms of gaming performance here, in my opinion. Both phones are really fast still. All right, so let's go ahead and hear the speaker quality. We're at max volume. Alright, so basically and I've said this in previous videos, I think the OnePlus 12R has kind of like a mediocre speaker. And I get it, they had to cut costs somewhere, but when you put it against like a flagship speaker, or not just a flagship speaker, just any good kind of speaker, I can immediately tell that it's just not on par as far as quality wise. To me, it sounds muffled and it just doesn't sound as clean. But the speakers, they do work. They're somewhat loud, but yeah, I definitely would say that's a weak spot for the OnePlus. Let's talk about the cameras. Alright, so for image quality, I was pretty impressed with the image quality, and I want to know what you guys think. So the S21 Ultra still has a 108 megapixel standard camera, 10 megapixels telephoto lens. It has 3 times optical, 10 megapixel periscope telephoto with 10 times optical, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide. It's using AK24 and a 40 megapixel selfie camera that's using 4K 60. Now the OnePlus has a 50 megapixel standard and an 8 megapixel ultra wide, has a 2 megapixel macro and shoots in 4K 60, and then a 16 megapixel selfie that only shoots in 1080-30. So you can see there's a bit of a spec difference with the S21 Ultra actually having a dedicated telephoto lens, actually 2 of them, and then the OnePlus having no telephoto lens and shooting in a much lower resolution for video as well too. So check out these side-by-side stills and let me know what you guys think. Alright, so I wanted to touch on the fingerprint scanners on both of these phones as well too. You do have a ultrasonic fingerprint scanner on the S21. It does feel a lot smoother and a lot faster in my opinion. So that's something I noticed. And I want to talk about the software differences. It really comes down to personal preference. Some people like the One UI, some people like Oxygen OS. I think One UI is a little bit better in my opinion because you do have Samsung desktop support, you have good lock you can take advantage of, and this phone does have the reverse wireless charging option you can turn on. And yeah, but OnePlus is a lot, I think it's super clean and it's very fast and fluid. I don't have an issue with it at all. Sometimes I think like it does look like a little bit like iOS, like right here, but overall it's a very clean operating system, which I've grown to really like. Now, as far as the battery situation goes on these two phones, so the OnePlus, it does have better battery life. So even if the S21 was new, it still would have better battery life. It has a slightly bigger battery at 5,500 milliamps, and the charging speeds on here are crazy. It's 100 watts, and then I think depending on the region, it goes down to 80, but it's still really fast. Now, the only thing about this phone is that it does not have any type of wireless charging, so that means you don't get the wireless or reverse wireless charging. The S21 does have wireless charging and reverse wireless charging. This has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, and the wire charging speeds are a lot slower at 25 watts. So yeah, so the battery experience, it kind of is a toss-up between what you really like, because this has a really long battery life and it charges really fast. This has decent battery life, but you do have wireless and reverse wireless charging. That's kind of a decision you would have to make, right? So that is pretty much it. I was really impressed here. I still think the S21 is the better phone in my opinion. I do like having a telephoto lens. I do like having the just 10 times when you want to zoom in if you're at a sporting event or something like that. I just think it's really useful. And then also One UI software with desktop support and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm really impressed with the OnePlus 12R. It's going to get, updates for a little bit longer as well too. So there's a lot of pros and cons with both these phones. And like I said, you have pen support on here. So it's a tough decision, of course, but let me know which phone would you guys pick. Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.